wouldn't even know it, okay? When Anthony took his life, it really hit me. I used to think about it myself as a teenager. I was working so much, and my family was so fucked up. I was addicted to drugs. And I remember thinking, what if I just ended it? Well, what? Then I wouldn't have to suffer so much. I wouldn't be in so much pain. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened had I succeeded. And sometimes I wonder, am I happy? And sometimes I wonder whether I did succeed and whether this is really me or just a fake.
Members of the Writers Guild are now picketing outside the Drew Barrymore show. This comes after the talk show host posted a video claiming an earlier recording in which she made disparaging remarks about writers was actually an audio clone. Audio analysis has since revealed that the recording was not a fake. Now protesters are calling for her to reinstate her assistant, and the protesting writers have been joined by members of SAG-AFTRA. I have the president of SAG-AFTRA, Fran Drescher, here to explain this latest development. Fran, help me understand, why are the actors now involved in this?
Alex, it's not just that Drew lied about her voice being cloned. It's that actual working actors are having their voices cloned. Studios are cloning their voices with AI and then using them over and over again, with the actors receiving very little compensation. And it's not just voices. The studios have also been essentially deep-faking background actors, making synthetic versions of them, and then reusing those likenesses over and over again for very little compensation, and in a way that eliminates those jobs that actually give working people a leg up in this industry. It's bupkis. And when someone lies about having their voice cloned or being deep-faked, it means people are less likely to believe others when it actually happens to them. And I'm wondering, too, did she lie about those suicide attempts? Because if so, that's even more bupkis. And she needs to apologize to the families of suicide victims. It's unconscionable.
Well, that's truly awful. I wonder how Drew will respond.
I deeply apologize for lying about my voice being cloned. I deeply apologize for disparaging writers and actors. But you know what? I'm also really upset because not everything in that video was fake. I really did try to take my own life as a teenager. Now people are saying I lied about that. They're saying I lied about my trauma. And that's so unbelievably hurtful. Just because I'm an actress, people think I've never had any trauma, that nothing real has ever happened to me. And so the writers, the PR people, they just put words in your mouth. And they tell you to be happy, 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 and they keep putting words in your mouth, and then suddenly you don't even know what you're saying, but you keep saying it and saying it. And those words become you. And you're like their puppet or whatever. They can make you say anything they want. And how is that different from them cloning your voice and doing it that way? You don't know what it's like coming from a family of actors. Mom was an actor and Dad was an actor, and my half-brother John and my paternal grandparents and paternal great-grandparents and 2 grand-uncles and both my godmothers, plus a few other people I can't even remember. So it's hard to even know what's what. Like when my dad was putting hands on my mom, was that really him? Or was he just playing a character? Was that just like a deep fake of him? Because other times he was so sweet, and Mom would just cover up the bruises and pretend like it hadn't happened anyway. Even those times when she tried telling people They didn't believe her. They said she was making it up. And was that because it didn't actually happen? Was it because he was acting? Or she was acting? Or what?
I'm gonna need reinforcement. Not a problem. Stop. Okay, no. That is no place to be starting the story. Jamie's right. We definitely need to start from the beginning.
But that's the best part of the whole thing.
Uma, if we're gonna tell the whole story, we have to tell it right. So, here's what you missed.
My work, my focus is on women, and I work with youth and kids, and all my programs is based on women. And then when I teach at the gym, it's all men, and they come back and they want me to teach. So I get a lot of messages from my students who are men, and it's amazing. It's really amazing to have that in Lebanon, because like usually a black belt woman teaches a mixed class, man and woman. But for a woman to teach a class filled with guys, I've never seen that. And to have this in Lebanon, it's amazing. Like they trust a woman, because usually a woman doesn't trust a woman. It's like, oh, she's the teacher. No, I want a man. I trust a man more. And these guys, actually, they train with me and they come back and ask me questions and they trust what I say. It's just amazing. Like our society is evolving. That's amazing. And they're all grown-ups. They're not kids. Mirella Atallah. That's how we say it in Arabic. Atallah. Or in English, Atala. I'm from Lebanon, from Beirut, born and raised. And in the beginning of the 90s, no, actually towards mid the 90s, we moved from Beirut to a little bit further in the mountains. And and we still live there until now. I was born and raised during the war, and I don't remember a lot of my childhood. Like everything was so dark, and it's not a happy childhood. It's all like in the shelters and running away, and like most of the things I remember, it's like the bombing, and like in the middle of the night you wake up, they start bombing, and then you have to run to the shelter, because the war started in 76, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I was born in 78. So, and then in the 80s there was war. Like it goes on and off, and then in the 90s there was the Civil War. Because after the explosion, few days I decided to go start helping like people in cleaning their houses, regardless the injuries, because I felt that's the best way to get over it, because I was so traumatic and I wanted just like to get over it. تفوت كوع شو لازم تعمل؟ كيف بدها تميل خصرة؟ أو بالمسافة مش ليها تفوت كوع. يا تجلس تعملها جدا عليها. اشتغلنا عليها الثلاثة كتير. كل واحد اشتغل عليها لوحده. شو؟ ترفع لفوق. يا قبر ربي. صح كلها. Then Sarah told me this time we're gonna do it in the camps. And I personally love the idea. I was like, yes, let's do it. Because I think it's very important that I go to their environment where they feel comfortable, they feel safe. Today, the game we did was easier for them, and I felt like now it's like a little bit by bit they're learning how to play, how to be a little bit more kids, to be foolish. I don't know if that makes sense.
اوكي كثير مهم انه بس بدي وقعها ووقف مثل اوكي ماشي نعملها على السريع
كيف كانوا؟
مكانتك
And I'm going to give you this. You have a microphone there. So, first of all, a round of applause to you four. Great job. And so this is our first panel discussion. I have a couple questions to hear from you, all four of you. Starting with, I want to hear quickly from Ashley a little bit more about your trailer and the trailer of your film.
Yeah, so the film itself is like 15 minutes long, so I didn't want to give everything away. But yeah, so it's a action heist movie about a group of girls that break into a frat house. It's campy, it's fun. I had a lot of fun researching it because I got to deep dive into a lot of films that I love and directors that I love. I got a lot of inspiration from Catherine Bigelow specifically. And I loved exploring genre, authorship, and feminist filmmaking.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. And if we think about that, Emily, your film it's interesting. As Ashley talked about Catherine Bigelow and feminist filmmaking and thinking about that, you're making this film that's working with multiple women, right? Drew Barrymore, and I forget the name of the president of the union, but Fran Drescher. Yeah. So can you, you have to switch that little puppy on. So can you talk a little bit about how you approached those two subjects as you were making this sort of, what's it called, Uncanny Valley version of Drew Barrymore and Fran Drescher and thinking about the terms of your film? How did you approach those two women and thinking about what they were presenting on screen and how we understood them? How were you thinking about those two characters as characters?
Yeah, so I mean, I started this film because I was interested in the role of generative AI in the film industry, and there had been this sort of viral episode of Drew Barrymore kind of strike breaking, and then people getting upset with her, and then her issuing an apology, and people getting upset about that. And Fran Drescher was like very involved in the discourse as the president of SAG-AFTRA. And so for my film, like I both relied on kind of real things that these people had said and done, but also, I mean, these are obviously deep fakes of them, so I kind of, fictionalized them from there.
Yeah, and brought some real depth, some real heart to Drew Barrymore becomes a real philosopher in there, a kind of metaphysical, what makes us real, and I wouldn't expect that from Drew Barrymore as a consumer of just a pop culture, but your film sort of forces me to reckon with her, the actual actress, in a new kind of profound way, and take her seriously in a new way, which I thought was an interesting turn. After I saw your film, I had a very different relationship to how I thought about her career, from E.T. onward, as a child actor. It was really interesting the amount of compassion and empathy your film generated even as a fictionalized version, deepfake version. It was a very interesting connection it created with me and the audience. Jalal, you made a musical. Can you tell us a little bit about the sort of your approach, and maybe a little bit about, did the Suraj Israni Center Fellowship help support there's so many elements. There's the music and the directing and the editing. There's so many moving pieces. Can you just talk a little bit about how you engage with the fellowship part and made the musical?
Yeah, so Another College Musical was a very involved project. We worked with over 100 people ended up being in the credits by the end of it. People in the visual arts department, the communications department, the theater department, music department, and beyond. And so it was really this big collaboration, both from students, and we also got a lot of support from staff and faculty, and pulling all the resources that this campus has to offer any art student. Really utilizing and kind of taking this interdisciplinary approach of what filmmaking was that this new cinematic arts program is trying to do. Mm-hmm. It's pulling across all those creative disciplines. Yeah. So this fellowship was kind of allowed us to create a project on such a big scale when it's just a student production, but the entire film is 55 minutes, and so it was really something that we needed the budget and that kind of support to be able to pull off something so big and something that we shot in just 1 quarter.
You made that whole film in 1 quarter.
We shot it in 1 quarter and then edited over many months.
You shot it in 1 quarter, and then it took another 4 years of post-production, or how long? No, but you did a pretty good turnaround. Was pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
And all of that, and was the music, was that coming from folks on campus too? The lyrics, the book, as they call it, the song book?
Yeah, so we had some very talented, we worked with a couple alumni from, they took some music classes, but they're also involved in music student orgs. Nice, Those were our vocal coach and wrote the songs with lyrics.
Yeah.
And then we had a grad student, a graduate of the grad student, Salvador Zamora, who did some underscoring, and then Zachary Connick was a PhD music student also graduated and did some underscoring.
So that's fantastic. So it's a big UC. And now I know you and Ashley, I think, are both were involved with Triton TV. Is that correct? Yes, so Triton TV is can either you or maybe Ashley just say a couple of words about Triton TV and what that is? Because I know that Suraj Israni Center for Cinematic Arts is doing a lot to try to support and sort of help the fellows in these ways. But Triton TV's been doing this kind of work at the grassroots level, right, for some time. So I'm wondering if your film was also a Triton TV engaged production. It was.
Oh, for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about that engagement and maybe just tell the folks here what Triton TV is so they know about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so Triton TV is a student org on campus that's made of our filmmaking community. Basically, it's a bunch of filmmakers that come together every week and pitch things like, hey, I need a PA this weekend. Anyone want to help? That kind of thing. But it's also just this group of people that I know, if you're a part of TTV, I can call on you for a project and you'll help out and you'll be there. And what I love about it is, for my film, I was able to be hey, I need a crew. I'm casting. I'll pitch it to this lovely group of filmmakers, and the best people will come out and help me out. And it's just awesome. It's been the highlight of my UCSD experience.
That's awesome. Well, I know that they have their regular meetings on Wednesdays at 6, so check them out on I guess they told me it was a Discord. I don't know what a Discord is. I know what it means to have discord between you and another person. But I don't know, there's an app or something. So anyway, go to their Discord. or Instagram, or what have you.
Yeah, ttv.ucsd on Instagram. We
And
also
you can
have
learn more.
a student film festival that we do every year.
And one of the goals, right, and one of the things we've been doing with the Center for Cinematic Arts, and I know Jalal and Ashley know this, is at the undergraduate levels kind of trying to team up with them and think about ways that we can be supportive of a big student organization to allow work like what we saw from you and Jalal here today. So that's really great. And I know I got an email like last night from TTV, and I wanted to do it rather than, so if you're here, person who emailed me, you're welcome. Luciana, we haven't heard from you. I mean, I'd like to hear, your film was really touching and quite moving, and I know that, this is a film that you went to Lebanon to make? No.
So actually, it's not a film. It's visual research because still kind of undergoing with the research on this project. Also, I have to mention that like some of the events that happened kind of following that this shooting, but so we'll probably unfold. I don't know. It's the project is kind of changing. There will be maybe like a way to use that footage and some more footage that will be shot in the next months to like work on something maybe more spontaneous. Mm-hmm. But the long-term project for me was like a film about the idea of resilience and women empowering. But then but Mirella is also like working on promoting her work. I was supposed to go during the last year to Lebanon and to do that research myself, but I didn't go because of the dangerousness of the travel, and so in the end I was put in contact with a cinematographer, a local one, who shot those images and sent them to me in August. So this is like kind of very recent.
Yeah. And you mentioned to me at lunch, and I think I imagine other folks would be curious to know. You mentioned that some of the folks who were involved in this are safe right now in terms of some of the violence that's happening in Lebanon. I know has affected some of the people in your film project.
So currently Mirella is working at another camp, is doing activities with children that were displaced recently, and so in the video now we can see one of the camp where there's like big ventilators is no longer existing. Also like kind of where the NGOs were located in those places. But everybody is safe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, just as
it's a bit stressful as a situation. And we didn't expect that, the subject of the film kind of was going to, take other dimensions, but yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for talking about that. I mean, I found it really moving, the project you presented, and with the idea of resilience. And in some ways, I think, not to artificially draw a connection, but I do see a connection among these films that we just looked at together with regards to resilience and like, taking some power into your own hands. I mean, I think in the musical we see these characters doing that and being like, we're gonna go, we're not gonna take no for an answer. And Drew Barrymore, not gonna take no for an answer. And we missed something. But I get the sense that we're not going to take no for an answer from those ladies either, and so there's something about that idea of resilience and rebound, and not rebound, but resilience is the word you used, and I think it's the right one. That I think it's quite powerful and meaningful right now, and so I was really glad to see that. We're just about time. I'm curious, in like the last minute, does anyone have any thoughts or observations about what you saw, either from your own work or one of your peers here, that you'd like to offer? Because maybe something struck you, and if it did, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to say something.
I was just curious about yours because we didn't see it. Is there like any kind of martial arts scenes?
Here, I'll take like martial arts scenes. We did some stunt work, so there's two different scenes in the film. There's one where the girl kind of like gets past like the bouncer at the front, and she just like kicks his ass. So that was fun to figure out. That was hard because we had to figure out like the person that I had to collaborate with on for like stunts does theater stage combat, which is a bit different than film. So we had to kind of figure out where can we put the camera to where this looks real, and don't.
It's a whole different thing, right?
It's a whole different
How
thing.
do you choreograph for the camera?
And also like the lighting, because the lighting in the hallway was kind of weird. It's like, okay, how do we figure this out? And I think we got there, but it was definitely a fun creative challenge.
That's fantastic.
And then we also have a long Nerf fight sequence.
Nerf.
Fair
enough.
Nerf guns.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know what that is. See, I'm old enough to know what Nerf is.
Like
if
Nerf
it's
guns?
Nerf on Discord, I'm lost. Thank you so much, everyone, for this conversation. And you can just turn those off. Okay, that was fantastic. Thank you to those fellows so much. Our next screening will be of 2 excerpts. One is a film by Rita Kadir, She Could Be the One, and one is a special presentation from The Film Pandemic Bread by Zainabu Irene Davis, who both of those are here, and we're going to speak with afterwards. My brilliant colleague from Visual Arts, Lena Williams, who's a professor in the Department of Visual Arts, will be leading our short little discussion afterwards, and we will begin with that presentation. So we will cross over and do that next.
Shall I get you started on some appetizers?
Do you mind if I wait a little longer?
Not a problem.
Dombey?
Oh, yes. Are you Riley?
Yeah.
Wow, look at these.
They weren't cheap, but they're worth the quality.
Thanks.
That's a pretty necklace.
Oh, thanks. What's your sign?
I'm not really into that kind of stuff.
It's okay. When's your birthday?
August 10th,
Oh, okay. What year?
2001.
Oh, okay. So you're a Leo. Fire with fire. That means we're compatible.
How compatible?
Thank you for calling AXL Mobile. This is Brandon speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, Brianna. I'm out of town right now, and for the life of me, I cannot find my phone. Do you think you can help me?
Yeah. Okay. Are you sure you looked everywhere?
Believe me, I've tried everything. I don't think it's gonna turn up anytime soon.
Well, at least it's a SIM card, not a V card, darling. All right, don't worry. What's the name and number associated with your account?
Sure, yeah. It's Riley Griffin, 858-619-7601.
Riley's a boy's name, right?
Yeah, but it can also be a girl's name.
2023, okay.
Travel
All
the world.
right,
I've
we'll
never
have
been to
process
so many
information for you,
countries.
and we'll send you a SIM card
India,
right away.
Asia, Africa. I mean, so many wild animals now. You would not believe I was gonna take a wild animal back home for a pet, right? It's like the laws in California.
Sorry, what kind of pet do you have?
Yeah, a turtle.
Oh, nice.
Here. This was Harold when we first got him.
Aw, that's cute. Although, he's gonna outlive you.
Yeah, probably. I've had enough time with him, though.
How was it?
Well, we didn't live in La Jolla or anything, but we were happy.
Where did you live?
Calabasas.
Oh, okay.
I'm so glad we're finally doing this.
Hey.
Your love is like a
waiter.
Like an eclipse sun in my summer air.
Yes,
Like
hi. Could you perhaps pause the music in here? I'm trying to show my beautiful date the amazing work that I've done on my last musical, Mortgage. You've heard of it? No? You haven't? Surprising.
What? Oh, what? Silly me, nah. This was last year. Yeah, I won golfing championships. Yeah, championships. Yeah.
We're splitting, right?
No worries. I pay.
Oh, he's a musician.
Just want to stop and stare. You're the best.
I'm actually staying in a beach house tonight. You should come. Angela.
Walk with me.
For you.
No, thank you. I'm not taking any bribes right now.
Oh, come on, just open it.
How'd you know?
Smudging is near impossible with felt tip, ballpoint, or rollerball, yet the ink suggests either a dip or fountain pen. But you wouldn't be caught dead with a feather, so it just left fountain.
Don't pretend like this is all of the kindness of your heart. Hit me. Jaden.
What? How else am I supposed to sit in that leather chair of yours?
Nice try. I'm taking that puppy with me.
No worries, I can redecorate.
Calm down.
I'm serious. Assign me to Cyber. I won't complain.
If you insist.
Justin?
Yes. Maya?
Yeah. So, what's your astrological sign?
Well, I was born a Virgo, but I was raised a Libra.
Wait, what? What do you mean?
My mom always wanted a Libra, so I'm pretty sure she fudged the numbers on my birth certificate.
Well, fuck.
What?
A Virgo and a Sagittarius are completely incompatible.
If you'd like, I could be a Libra for an evening.
What'd you know about what I like?
I wouldn't. So, tell me.
Set.
Action. Zainabu Irene Davis, and I am the director, producer of Pandemic Bread.
Pandemic Bread was the first time Zainabu and I really got a chance to start at the beginning and go through the entire process together.
It's always good working with Z. You know, I know what I can do, and I know what she can do, so I stay out of her lane.
I'm a writer, but my day job is as a phone interpreter, a Tagalog phone interpreter. So I wrote Pandemic Bread based on my experience interpreting for end-of-life calls.
Marvy's story just jumped out at me personally because I like to bake. I have a grandmother and a father who were both bakers. And then just the poignancy of that story is so beautiful. It's simple, but it's really powerful. And so it just
one thing we did from the beginning, even before she spoke with Margie, was to change the gender of the doctor in the stories and the ethnicity also of the doctor.
I trusted Mark with his screenplay because Zainabu long ago told me like the best screenwriter she had ever met was her husband, Mark. And I was like, I believe you. I mean, he's a librarian. He knows good writing, right? That's what he does for his profession. He reads books.
It felt good knowing that the director was working with the writer to be as truthful and as connected with the culture as much as possible.
Casting was difficult. I was very fortunate. One of my former students, Obane Onyador, she really helped me get through that process. And it was difficult because we wanted to make sure that we had a Filipina actress who really sounded like she was from the Philippines. Especially with the elder actress of Remedios, that was the most difficult role to fill.
One of the things that I was able to use when I portrayed Remedios is the difficulty in breathing. My heart failed. COVID. I ended up in the hospital alone. As my heart was beginning to fail, I couldn't breathe. It was hard to breathe.
Being able to completely be myself on set and with my accent, with, my language, with the way I would interact with my spouse, was all there, and there was room for it to exist on set. So it felt like, in some instances, they ask you on set to add an accent or to like push forward the envelope of, oh, let me show you that I come from another place. And here it was just not, there was no comment on it. It was just there.
The being so totally isolated and alone in your journey, in your COVID journey, I experienced because I couldn't have family with me. Couldn't have my husband, couldn't have my daughter. It was just all nurses and doctors and people you don't know. And you have to trust strangers to take care of you. And this is what Remedios is going through.
One thing that was really a challenge for me was that, I think it was about 10 pages altogether. I thought it was going to be one page and then cut. But then they said, okay, let's go through this 1 to 10. It's like, I just panicked. I'm glad that Zainabu was very patient with me during that time.
Christina was the one who suggested Norbert, and Norbert just like came in and like we just spoke each other's love language. We were just like totally geeking out on different films, and then he would send me lookbook things through Studio Binder, etc. And then I would just like, we just began to like have this connection where I could see his films and he saw my films, and we would just like kind of talk about different ideas about composition, lighting, and we're kindred spirits in the fact that both of us do drama, we do documentary, and we do experimental work. So like we can talk to each other about those different forms and how we can kind of meld those together when it's possible, and I think that we were able to do that on Pandemic Bread.
My job really was to figure out how we were going to fund this so that Zainabu had the chance to make as beautiful a film as she wanted.
Zainabu's film has brought together so many things. I mean, we shot at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, which is the original UC San Diego.
I thought I was coming onto set as a PA, so I was like, okay, I'm ready to do the grunt work, make me run around, whatever. And then they were like, no, I think you should be like one of the producers. And I was like, okay, what do they do? And then they kind of walked me through everything. Nikki took me under her wing, and then Reed took me under her wing as we were figuring everything out.
That was fantastic, and I want to thank our filmmakers. We also are going to bring up to the stage a couple of folks. I want to just introduce my colleague Alina Williams, who is Dr. Alina Williams from my department. She is a curator and writer on modern and contemporary art, and has contributed two publications from the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Berlin Biennale for Contemporary Art, Ars Electronica, the Guggenheim Museum, and many, many others. She has been teaching with us in visual arts for quite some time, and we're just so thrilled to have her. So Alina will be leading the discussion with Rita Kadir, Zainabu Irene Davis, Kyler Ballinger, who is a graduate student in our visual arts program, and Yingji Fei, who is a PhD student in our literature program. So welcome to the stage, all of you.
Hi, so thank you so much. This was amazing to see not only like the fruits of your labor, but also just to have you here to talk about these various projects. I guess overall, in terms of what we know is that a couple of the projects are not visible to the audience today. So I'm going to ask a kind of general question, but for the two of you, Kyler and Yingxi, it would be wonderful to hear more about how your research is going, how it relates to this topic, and maybe expand a little bit since we didn't have an opportunity to see it. But I wanted to begin by just congratulating you on your work. This is one of those types of moments where it seems that there's a lot of disparate ideas happening on one single panel, but I really felt a connection, a sense of thinking about the idea of intimacy in each of your works. So with your short at the beginning, it was, of course, there is this overall story of this con woman and the whole circumstance of people meeting each other and the intimacies that are possible, but also the perils. In your work, Yingxi, I really felt like we're looking at emerald violence in Colombia, and I thought a lot about the intimacy of Four Continents, that book by Lisa Lowe, which looks at the 19th century, thinking about that connection between the global marketplace, these kinds of economic systems which put pressure on the local and your particular context. In Zainabu's wonderful documentary of the making of a film, we saw the behind the scenes of making a film, the kind of intimacy of production, the kind of connections that bring the director, the actors, and the various crew together. And with Kyler's work, it focuses on a familial history. It's focusing on a very small village in southern Germany, but also, I'm thinking of the resonances here with also Zainabu's film, thinking about the village it takes to make a film. So I wondered if each of you could speak to that a little bit and also fill us in a little bit more on the status of your future work with this material or the future work in this ongoing research for two of you as well. We'll start here.
It just came on. Here you go. Thank you. So regarding, I guess, your point about intimacy in my work, I guess the idea that I kind of came in when I was writing the screenplay was how no matter if we're con artists or FBI agents, which most of us are not, whenever we're trying to meet anybody new in our life, we kind of put on a persona to try to sort of be more like the person that we imagine that they would like. And this is just kind of that maximized for us to analyze in a certain sense. And I really think that, like, in my future work, I also kind of take that element in me where I really try to look at how can I talk about the human experience beyond just what is in our own separate identities, but something that we all carry within us, in a way that kind of infuses comedy and drama and mixes genres together.
Thank So my project was actually more research focused, but eventually I do want to build a digital humanities project and turn it into kind of like a space, constitute a space where these people from this emerald mining region can, retell their memories and kind of serve as a space for community collective healing. And the reason I wanted to do this is I think it's important because when I presented some part of my work at a conference, and I had a Colombian person came to me, was like, hey, they told me, hey, I'm not a scholar and I'm not even at school, but I'm an immigrant in France. And when I just hear, what you've done, when I went down to Colombia, I talked to those people, like listening to their stories, and they told me, like, thank you. Just the stories that you presented today, what you have is the story of my mother, is the life of my sister, and I'm glad to, to see like the connections, like this individual connections to your work, and so I'm glad to to be able to build a relationship or trust with the people I do want to write about, and I think that's how like intimacy really served as a very positive community purpose.
Yeah. One of the things that the Israni Fellowship did for us was to help us build a community and extend a creative community. And the reason why we wanted to show the making of documentary for Pandemic Bread was to show how many people came together when we were able to do the narrative Pandemic Bread. It was 27 actors and like 57 production people involved, pre-production, production, and post-production all together. And it was people from UCSD, San Diego State, like 2 or 3 area high schools, High Tech High, a bunch of other schools in the area, community, San Diego City College. We just got everybody that we could to be involved with this because we all went through COVID, right? So it was really important because COVID caused a lot of grief and a lot of loss. And, filmmaking, in addition to being entertaining, is also a way to help us heal. And so for me particularly, I lost 2 brothers to COVID. And it was a way to heal, to have a experience of being able to share that grief, but also to heal from that grief as well. So I'm really proud that we were able to come together as a community to create something that was beautiful, that marked what happened to us so that we won't forget, and so that we will be resistant and resilient, and that we can keep making creative community. So I'm very excited to let you all know that Pandemic Bread won the audience prize at the San Diego Filipino Film Festival last Sunday. And thank you. And that there's a number of people in this room. Nikki Evangelisti's here, who's the co-producer on the film. And Lev Kalman, who's also here, was also another, oh, you're over here, sorry. You were over there before, but now you're over here. So is there anybody else here who's on the crew that participated? Well, they're here in spirit too, so. But anyway.
Yeah, sorry that I couldn't screen anything today. I'm not quite finished, but the MFAs actually have a group show at Mandeville Gallery in January, where this part of this will screen. So I'm almost there. But I guess the reason that I wanted to talk, even though I didn't have anything to screen, is that what this fellowship allowed for me to do was to go spend about a week with my father there. On the left, he's someone I've made many films with in the past, and I felt that the project that we were making was going to go one way, and it didn't. And and that was a good thing. It expanded from that. We talked about other things, and from that time that I spent with him, I was able to expand the project into something that takes place in Germany and in Spain and parts of California, and it's just become a much larger film, but still rooted in this same kind of intimacy of a story between him and I and a story of his family. But without the kind of time which the money from the fellowship offered, and the equipment, which is like high quality, high production level equipment, I wouldn't have been able to be there alone with him, to have these intimate conversations, to capture what I needed from video, from the sound, and just from being present, being able to listen, to make the project that I'm now making. So, yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. I feel that there's a lot of discussion here in connection to just the idea of collaboration then. You know, collaboration literally in time, but also out of time with people who are no longer there. Collaboration with your subjects, with also the materials, and you're doing a lot of archival research too, right? And I think that archive comes in a lot too with Kyler's work as well. And you began this project while you were at UCSD, or? Okay, so were these connections and friendships that you had built through the major and in coursework, or did you develop your community, you know, outside of that?
It's an interesting story, actually. I started this project technically in 2022 in August, and I was part of this other organization, with Joel, actually, and we were part of this class where I wrote this film for. And that program ended up not being exactly what we had wanted it to be, and we kind of lost any sort of artistic integrity to the project itself. And after 6 months of working with them and going through a lot, I ended up parting ways with them, and they had told me that there was an earlier student who had also parted ways. And so I found him on Discord, actually. And then after that, I reached out to him and told him my experience, and so he set up a meeting with everyone who was part of that last class and whoever wanted to come from our class, and we kind of had a tea session and talked about everything that went wrong with that organization, which was a lot. But by the end of it, we thought it would be really, really interesting if we made this film independently from that organization. And that's kind of how it started. And then it grew to TTV, of course, and then people in my class, a lot of students, especially Casey, who's here, from my screenwriting class, and Sarang, who was also from my screenwriting class, who supported me along the journey, and it could not have been possible without them. And of course, the Israni family as well for supporting us.
So I started my project for kind of like a bunch of reasons. One is, so now I would say I am an oral historian in cultural studies, but after spending a couple years in the field, in the department, reading a lot of theoretical work, I came to realize that I had this interest in oral history, in storytelling since a long time ago when I was a kid, when my grandpa would tell me his time in Vietnam. He was a veteran from Vietnam War, but he fought on the communist side, not the... But yeah, I just grew up listening to those stories, and also my dad, our family is kind of like very activist, and my dad will tell me how his college friend went to Beijing in 1899 but never came back. So that's how a lot of stories around activism, around this political consciousness that I grew up with. And now, because I'm very interested in Latin American studies, so I kind of ended up, for many reasons, and the friends I made, I ended up doing research on Colombia. But the particular on the emerald industry in Colombia was because I was working on my master's thesis in Colombia, and really, as people came to me, wanted to share their story with me. And I do realize, I do want to go to the space, go somewhere where empathetic listening is needed, and I'm dedicated to create a space where these people, if they want to share their stories, they get to tell their past in their own way, heal in their own way, without being told by state-designated humanitarian aid project what kind of story you need to offer in order, in exchange for any institutional financial aid, or being told by a psychiatrist to learn, to remember, to tell, or to process pain and fear in a certain way, but it really just empathetic listening, and to build a very autonomous collective memory.
Yeah, I think the part with Pandemic Bread in terms of an archive was that, in San Diego in particular, we have a very large Filipino population, and unfortunately, that population was underreported in terms of the losses that it suffered from COVID. And that was important to me to make sure that as a San Diegan, that people knew that the Filipino community lost so many folks. And so when Mari V's story came out for the Decameron Project, which my husband Mark was the librarian, was a part of the Decameron Project, for the San Diego Public Library decided to do stories. Mari V's story was one of the top 10, and it was a simple story, or so I thought. And it only had 3 people in it, so how it ballooned to be 27 people in the cast, okay. Nikki's still mad at me about that, but okay. But to tell the story of the community, it was really important to make sure that somehow got translated as much as possible, because unfortunately mainstream media didn't let us know that. And so, that needed to be known in some kind of way. There's another wonderful film, Nurses Unseen, that the first nurse that actually passed away from COVID was also a Filipino nurse. And so there's all these untold stories. And so I think that's a lot of my work, is just to try, as a filmmaker, to try to reveal stories about people that don't often get told. And so that's one of the things I think that continues to drive my work, and that's what I try to pass along to my students, like Ashley, so that you go ahead and, start telling those stories. What you don't see, you make happen. You build those kinds of things up for yourself so you can also see those things, because that's what's important. That's what you bring to the media as your new visions, because that's, you know, that's what we need to see. We need to see the stories of ourselves that we don't yet see. So that's what's important. Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of like the research element and how it expanded beyond the original film, which was largely about the idea of home, is this discovery that myself and a few distant cousins made of family in this region of Germany. And in this small village, there's a Jewish museum, which is very strange for that to be there. And it's there because of one particular rabbi who kept these records of everything from the late 1600s through the mid 1800s. He was killed in the Holocaust and the synagogue burned down. But many of his records remained, and a museum was put up in the town, and you can read about the families that occupied the village at the time, and one of those families is my family, my father's family. And so that is sort of so I spent some time at the museum with some local historians who could speak English and help me, and they brought me to important sites where my family had lived and died, and etc. And then another part of the film that I'm making is not just a documentary, but there is a narrative part of the film that revolves around a female character who is a moneylender, a sports bookie, and that is connected tangentially to my family. And for some stories about, specifically about like Jews in antiquity, I visited at the top there, I visited this archive at Cambridge called the Cairo Geniza Collection, where they have documents that span over 1,000 years of Jewish history that were discovered in the late 1800s in a synagogue in Cairo. And amongst these discoveries are many banalities that just tell sort of stories of daily life, and many of them about women. And this is because a lot of the women in Cairo were sort of sending letters off to their husbands who had traveled and been to other places. And so I got some of the inspiration for the narrative part of the story from that archive. So those two particular sites were informative to what the work is.
And I'm interested in, will that exchange and collaboration and discussion with them be like part of the material of the film, or is it more like around the film, you know, in a spectral way, or, you know, I wonder.
Yeah, it is kind of part of the film. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm working on that. Yeah, okay. That's the idea.
Do I open this up to the audience, or do we just continue with our discussion? Okay. Oh, yes. Great. Okay. So I also wanted to then move into a discussion of the way that the time-based media really is the ideal, or the mechanism of choice for these types of topics and themes that you're exploring. I think in some cases it feels more straightforward, but there might be unexpected reasons why, you know, even the production methods that you used, or I know that Kyler talked about in this project, the lenses that were used that were enabled through this grant. And yeah, I'm just curious of the potentialities of the medium that you were really excited to explore this time around that maybe differed from previous projects that you've done before. For example, I don't know if you've worked in the digital humanities before, or if this is a brand new project in that sense for you and exposure. Yeah.
A year ago, some of my friends and I, we made a film on deported migrants in TJ. And we focused on a lady who was deported 20 years ago from LA, but now she opens a tamale shop she has a tamale shop in Tijuana, and she regularly offers free food to migrants, for asylum seekers in TJ. And we love that project, and we're still close to that lady. Really is just also the lady would show the film that we make, at their local community events, and a lot of people come around. It's really a loving community. Now people are building down in TJ, and so for my project on Colombia, it's of course something that I would love to. I would love to make a film like we did on the migrants in TJ, but also because of the complexity of the ongoing violence, related to the emerald industry, we do need to really consider various factors that how do we deal with the identities of people who talk to me. And it's actually quite contradictory when I, talk to like emerald miners. It's contradictory because we see that people come, a lot of miners displaced from other regions of rural Colombia to the emerald mining region, looking for a fortune, right? Hoping to find fortune, find wealth, but it's contradictory because at the end of the day, they are glad that they never found a big stone. And here I want to share the words from an emerald miner, and they said, "There's nothing left of the emerald. The emerald has good things and bad things, but more bad things. This is why I never regretted not having found a large piece by myself. I prefer not to have brought wealth here. I'd rather not have made enemies or been killed. The emerald leaves people dead. People are left poor, and their blood ends up washing the ground outside the mines. And the money, as fast as it arrives, runs out. Thank God I came here, and they didn't kill me for an emerald." So it's really this very contradictory situation, and that people are, living with is they do have to negotiate their relationship with a higher power that still now exercises their autonomy in this region of Boyacá. And this is also the reason that I named the region Boyacá a green frontier. Green because it has a lot of mountains, and it's also green for the rich reserves of emerald. And it's a frontier because it has been distant, has been far away from the political center for a long time. In colonial times, it was a land of refuge for runaway slaves, for corrupt officials, banished from the colonial center. And nowadays, again, for the geographical condition, the state of Colombia has not been able to extend its institutional power to the region. And what we see is local family clans that have resided in the region for a long time, with their knowledge of the region, and also with the power, the economic power generated by the emerald production, legal or illegal, and they were able to have a private army of themselves, to exercise sovereignty similar to that of state, and also to exercise, justice in private hands for private interests. So it's basically like a state within a state. That's why I named it a frontier. And for this reason, it's very complicated. And these people who are willing to talk, they're still in a very precarious situation. So I think at the moment, a digital
humanities project is, my digital humanities project is not limited to a film, but any format that can document the stories, the past of people who wanted to share. But it could be simply an oral history archive. But I'm open to like a mini format, and it depends on like how the people want me to, like document their stories.
Right, so like it could come out as an image or scraps of paper, fragments that are then scanned.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, it's still like at the research stage, but I do want to keep working on it, if I get a chance to work on my dissertation and everything. Yeah.
Super exciting. Does anyone else on the panel want to speak to this, the techniques or equipment or aspects of the grant that are opening up this project on a time-based level that are particularly unique?
Sure. In terms of like the equipment that we were able to use from the Suraj Israni Center, I have to say the lenses are the absolute best. It raised the production quality of our film tenfold. And we also played a lot with lighting, especially for me, it was very important that I wanted to capture certain locations in San Diego, especially later on in the film, we shoot at the Coronado Island. And for that, we had to use a special type of lighting and also work in a public space, which was very different. And so we were using a lot of different techniques beyond just three-point lighting. So we were trying to bring out different colors, like the reds of the Chinese restaurant. And then also when we were working with sound as well, a lot of the locations that we had to work in was during the restaurant was still running. And because of that, we had to kind of find a way to minimize outside sound while still not disturbing the rest of the business. So that was also a very like innovative approach that we tried to use. And in terms of the overall film itself, like editing and that sort of thing, being able to take the equipment that we use and use those SSDs and files and then bring that into the editing space, we definitely relied a lot on the Suraj Israni equipment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a visual arts MFA. It's not a film program, and I wasn't expecting upon coming in to have like access to sort of full, cinema equipment. Even though Media Lab is great, and what the graduate department has is good stuff as well. But what this sort of reserve of reds and black magics and what this does is offer someone like me specifically who likes the idea of making like cinema looking films inside of a gallery space. It makes it possible without having to rent the equipment, which is prohibitive for the amount of time that I would need it for on a graduate salary. So that's so yeah, I mean it's huge.
Well, I guess I want to kind of bring us to a close here in a sense, but I think what's really exciting about the group that I got to speak with today is that, it's so interdisciplinary. We've got visual arts, we've got critical gender studies, communications, African American studies, we have literature, Spanish literature, and then we have media production, also background in business as well. But that this is possible within the big umbrella of cinema, and the cinematic arts is what's really exciting about having you all here and being able to see your work and hear about it. And I think I really have a similar feeling that Michael does, that this is super rewarding to see and to be around you all. So thank you so much for your attention to your work and sharing it with us. Yeah, thank you. Thanks to the audience.
Third and final program, which will include kind of like what you've seen already, some screenings of films, No, no, no. You were amazing. I couldn't catch you ahead of time. It's totally fine. I'm pumped. People won't even be talking about you. I'm like, you know who's a legend. I'll order a coffee. And they'll be like, here's a coffee. I'm like, you know who's a legend? Zainab Wilding Davis. You know what? I didn't know. I feel like I just, okay, good. Wonderful job. Beautiful work. Really great work. Really great work. I'm back. I feel a lot better. Yeah. And thank you for your brilliant work. Really lovely. Yeah, I loved hearing about it. Dude, you're awesome. So good to see you. So good to see you. Yeah, congratulations. Like, really exciting. And you, again, keep out you.
Whatever I can do.
You're always so great.
To learn about whatever
It's so awesome. I'm going to grab this microphone.
Oh, yeah. I want to do this photo.
So I'm going to introduce you to
the background.
I'll just say a few words as also the moderator. You don't mind doing that? And just while I was gone, oh my gosh! Hi! Oh yeah! I didn't get that. That's awesome. It was so funny. I'm not on Instagram, but today I was trying to look up the name of, you know how Colleen had that American hammer? She did a post on Instagram from the event where I was moderating her, but I was looking for one of the other moderators, and I came across that post again from her, and I saw that you liked it. And you had said, nice to see you two together in this photo. And I was just like, yeah, super meaningful. And, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna see Zainab today. This film, wow. Like, it was like, I didn't quite get there when I asked the question, but I felt like the pandemic time was a particularly the domesticity of being together at home like that, unprecedented, and like, we're never gonna have that back also, and the fact that this is like engaging that idea is just brilliant, so congrats. And I was so, you know, the Mandeville Suite, I have been helping Wayne remodel it since, because that's the original design of the interior design, and I was like recognizing it. I was like, oh my god, the Mandeville Suite. So you were blocking out things and working on production there?
Yeah,
did you
shot
film
it
there?
there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's the doctor character played by Claire Simba.
Yeah.
The African actress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's her home. She made that her home. Yeah.
So funny.
Which is ironic because when I came here 5 years ago, that's where they housed me.
As like when you came to do your job talk?
Yeah.
Oh, did it impress you or not?
Well, yes, because it was horrible as a space, but the view, that's what got me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, I was coming from Northwestern in Chicago in January, and like I went after, go to the beach, and I just saw dolphins jumping in the water in January. Come on, bro. You knew I was not going to stay in Chicago after that.
That's amazing.
It's like, So it was like full circle to come back and then shoot in that space. So it was like, okay. All right. I could do this.
I've spent a lot of late nights in there actually with this interior design thing I was doing.
Oh my god.
But I don't know if you've seen how it looks now, but if you ever see it, let me know what you think. Because, I mean, it's a little bit more modernist looking.
Okay.
I don't know if Wayne really likes it, but they were having trouble trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, I need to put my energy somewhere, and that could be a good outlet for like this energy, and I'm very far away from that.
Okay. Oh, now I really want to ask Wayne.
He's probably going to tell you he hates it, I bet.
You could only go up from where it was.
Yeah, it was pretty low. The furniture is horrible.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, so nice to see you. Hey. How was the surfing?
It was good. real good to see you. It's really good.
In Alaska, and you guys are frolicking.
Yeah. Mark it on your calendar. It's always that third week.
Yeah.
Right before.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to surf. Just come hang out.
Yeah, and like under some shade. Exactly. Because sometimes I get like previous years I was like, do I want to be in a wetsuit in front of everybody? Do I want to be? And just get paranoid and stuff like that. But now maybe I should wear less. So great. Let me know if I can do anything for the website. I mean, I know he
Group by group, clear polymer shells sliding back into its sheath, our gasping lungs release, our egg-shaped eyes fail back to blink, the mirror of the face of another, distorted by the loss of homemade gravity. Our bones, our lungs, our eyes contoured to newfound shape. Human stereotypes close, feeling our weightless bones. Then we all feel less. Our long eyes awake. It all new to them. The ark landed. Humanity was saved 10 by 10. We went to work. The physic crew and medic team, the psych team and bio crew, the rehab crew and socio team, organizing other teams and crews, 500 human groups. Productive clusters set to work. Architects turned on their robot builders, gene seed farmers checked, android tailors, engineers assembled, systemic aqua filters. Lastly, let's recall those whose contributions would be human continuity. Architects hold the dust scattered light years back. Artists draw future lines scrolled to trace our tracks. Humanity was saved. The ark touched down. But what was our courage to be? On this unpeopled ground, our arcs and proofs to sample those planet moons and planetoids, even a few asteroids upon which life could be found, and many thousands of such places occupy the outer spaces. This place was the first to pass the test, calculated to sustain us past. The hunger is sweet and peeled back as we saw a world of gray, grayish, black. Hard obsidian hills, softened by ocean like empty kinetic skies. Cloudy vapors neutralized, reflected in the onyx tides. Colorless landscape, neither dream nor nightmare could inspire. Some of us began to cry. To reach a world, to save a race, settlers doomed to settle this place. Our boots took the step from the ship's solid floor to the shifting surface beyond the door. Granules moved under a foamy loam. Oxygen winds blew in, we breathe, stinging atmosphere. Inward seethe, yes, at first it hurt to breathe. Then thundering sounds had our ears, and as we mentioned, there were tears. But then Imani pointed to the view. Koa laughed, and Jing gasped too. An art like rhythm, the art's pioneers, as photons dance in the atmosphere. The light of change never be the same, and from aurora, changes came as blue in our eyes to live, as red in our eyes to live, from yellow made gold, from green came verdant memories of what had transpired. The new life this exodus inspired, as the old life had inspired this exodus inside of us.
Dad? It's so late here.
You answered.
Get to the point. I'm busy.
Can you be home? For the holiday weekend?
Well, I'm probably...
I thought you should know.
Know what? I knew it was a lot, but this is ridiculous.
You should have seen it before I got here. Even more of his collections and whatnot.
Where's he at?
Shopping for tonight. I told him takeout would be easier.
A whole meal? You didn't have to do that.
He sounded happy to see you. How was your flight?
All right.
How long are you staying?
Monday. What? I'm not here for some vacation.
Look around. More than one weekend would help, and Dad would want to see you.
See, I am helping. Besides, I got stuff there. Hey.
Thanks. They're upgrading the locks. Left a new key. How you been?
Good. Yeah, been good. Geez, this is quite a lot. You sure you wanna?
No trouble. Got enough for tonight and the rest of your stay.
You smash. You still got it in you.
Of course. It's homemade. What do you guys think? Pulling one of the old DVDs tonight.
If you can get his ass on the couch.
The food all right?
It's good. Just, do it another night?
Another night? He's only here till Monday.
How's school?
It's good.
Class has been all right?
Well, I'm not failing.
It's just, I never hear about what you're up to.
You gonna tell me the story?
Hmm?
Story.
About what? I told you what's going on.
Never said why.
Well, you'd know if you'd called. It's one way to get your ass back here.
I thought the golf here was good. Was it the neighbors? What were there? Fermi and Ellen. Or something serious. The mortgage, money.
Nothing serious. Just downsizing.
Couch is too big. Well, if that was it, then could have left already. No point in sticking around so long.
It's a nice place.
I think it's good, Dad. What does he know? His high and mighty lifestyle.
Yeah, what's that supposed to
You
mean?
ever think about it here? On the other side?
You know what? It's your house. Do what you want.
This is your place too. Can you stick around a little bit longer?
Can't.
And why is that? You passed the broccoli?
It's kind of salty.
Tristan.
What kind of answer is going to make you happy?
You're not even happy about it.
Oh, I am.
Seems like it.
You never cared. Said so yourself.
Well, I didn't mean like I did.
That's why you fucked off, didn't you? Look, I didn't. It's this home, all right? Even the nicest places. That's the truth.
I lost track of the house in a way. It was the land and the birds and the animals and all the changing. When the fog comes in, the fog rolls in like this, and that's how these trees drink. That tree drinks 30,000 gallons of water a week. How does it get it? From the fog. You'll see the whole way is lit with abalone shells, which reflects in the moonlight. There, it's really interesting. So I just love this land. I cut down Christmas trees.
What are we doing here, Venus?
My uncle is missing. I thought his old house might have some clues for us.
What was his name again?
Dick Frankfurter.
Cool.
Hi, Mom. Yeah, we just got here. The key was just where you said it was. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. We'll see. Well, no. We'll see. We have our own ways of investigating.
Hello? Uncle Dick? What? Just checking.
Wow. This place is crazy. Looks like MTV Cribs.
Whoa, check out this fridge.
But anyway, my grandparents were wonderful Indian people, and they taught me all kinds of Indian ways. And up here, whenever I came up here, I started to get mushrooms. I started to pick, lemon verbena and rose geranium and stuff that was growing up here that was planted by the Indians. And you can, in the villages where these come from, Cambodia and Vietnam, that's how they send all their messages. If there's fire, if there's danger.
What year is this?
2001.
All of the pieces, my pizza oven's 400 years old. Shah Jahan, he built it for Mumtaz, the Queen of India. Okay, Took. Let me go get Took for a second. Okay.
Oh,
hey.
goodness.
Hey. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming. The cardinal directions. North, okay, that's purification. Cleanliness, true spirit. This is to the east, that's enlightenment. And so to the south is where we take our harvest and grow. Everything there grows in the south in the summer. There, and then to the west. And that's the dream nation where the bears. This is Tracy.
Like two crazy archetypes of each other,
I don't think it's...
North is purity. It's a white owl.
Hello, everybody. My name is Todd Henry. I teach in the history department here at UCSD, and I would like to thank the Israni Center for supporting my research about South Korea's first male fashion designer. Here you can see an image of Andre Kim, who was born in 1935, an era when Korea was still under Japanese colonial rule. Andre Kim lived through the division of the Korean Peninsula into North and South Korea in 1948, lived through the Korean War, and then became one of South Korea's most important fashion designers going all over the world for fashion shows, including in places like Egypt. He did a fashion show in front of the pyramids. And then later in the 1990s, even came to outfit Michael Jackson. So if you look at some of Michael's space age looking outfits from the 1990s with these corners on his shoulders, these were all done by Andre Kim. So my research has led me to begin to launch a film project about how Andre Kim connected disparate ethnic and political communities of the post-1945 world through his unique clothing and fashion shows. The film will also highlight how local social groups in such locales as Hawaii, the place that Andre visited most during his career, promoted the goals of the organizers of the fashion shows, especially Asian American women who worked to bring him to these spectacles in Honolulu. Honolulu, not a site that you might imagine as an epicenter of fashion, but a place that held a special place in Andre Kim's heart, as well as in the many people who brought him to Honolulu. So I wanted to show you this image you see here on the right as an example of the kind of work that Andre Kim did and the ways in which his clothing helped to stitch together various kinds of ethnic, racial, and cultural communities. So in the middle, you see this woman, Jean Adiyoshi is her name. She was the first lady of Hawaii and served with her husband, George Adiyoshi. George was actually the first Asian American governor in the United States, who was in office from the mid-1970s until the mid-1980s. Jean, whom I was able to interview in Honolulu earlier this year, was the first person to bring Andre Kim to Honolulu in 1972. The picture you see here, they say that pictures speak 1,000 words. I think this is a great example of this. This is 1975, the state visit of Queen Elizabeth. You can see her husband here, Philip, who visited Hawaii in 1975 on a state visit. And of all the dresses that Jean Adiyoshi could have worn, here she is wearing Andre Kim's red coat while she met the royal family. So with support from the Israni Center, I was able to interview Jean, and I'm actually going to go back to Honolulu in December. We finally have been able to track down the institution that holds Jean's dress. This is the Bishop Museum. So I will accompany Jean. She's 91 years old. George, still with us, is about 98, 99. We'll go to the Bishop Museum and reunite with her dress, and I will try to interview her and ask what it was like to wear this dress as a symbol of the kind of multicultural clothing and culture that was representative of Hawaii, and to look at how this dress by Andre Kim helped link Hawaii to Great Britain. So thank you very much for allowing me to share my research. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm very happy to continue to communicate with you about the wonderful support I've received to launch this documentary project.
That was fantastic. And now we're going to welcome to the stage our fellows who are with us and our moderator. Our moderator is Daisuke Miao, who will join us and talk about his own project, The Enchanted Worlds of Jacques Demy, as well as Alexandra Sagari, Zachary Horai, Lev Kalman, and Todd, of course, is not with us. So please welcome to the stage our filmmakers, scholars, and fellows.
so much. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Anna, for organizing this beautiful event. And the beauty of Suraj Israni Center for Cinematic Arts is a conversation like this between the practitioner of filmmaking, filmmakers, and the scholars, including me. Cinema and cinematic arts, it has to be, to me, it has to be a combination of the two, scholarly conversation and practical conversations. And making a connection, substantial connection, is one of the most beautiful goals of the center, and I am honored to be a part of it. Right? So thank you very much, first of all. And let me briefly, because everybody has presented her own work, so let me briefly talk about my own project and how the fellowship from the center helped helping my work here. So I don't have a clip, but I have brought a poster of Jack Demy's work. So this is from this is a poster of retrospective of Jack Demy films held in France in 2012, I think. So Demy was a French filmmaker mainly about musicals. So he was a musical director. And musical, it's still very relevant to today's filmmaking. And as you saw, one of our films here, Star Core, it's sort of a musical. And also, earlier panel, we saw a college musical. And to a certain degree, Professor Henry's work, he mentioned Michael Jackson. So it is also musical related. And yesterday, I saw Joker too. Some of you may, but it was a very interesting meta musical. And one very interesting scene to me was a direct reference to Jack Demy's film, Umbrellas of Cherbourg. How many of you have seen Joker 2 already, or just a few? Okay. How many of you have seen the trailer of the film? Okay. You may remember a sequence when Joker, he is captured in a prison. He walks from a door of a prison to another door, and it's raining. And you may remember a high-angle shot of beautiful umbrellas. That's only the prison guards are using, and Joker is not. He's drenched. That's the opening scene. That's a direct reference to the opening scene of Umbrellas of Cherbourg. So contemporary filmmakers are still, referring to Demy's work. And how many of you have seen La La Land? Yeah. La La Land is mostly a reference to some of Jack Demy films. So that's a direct reference, or a loose remake of some of Demy's films. And Zachary's film is beautifully capturing the sense of nostalgia and time, reconception of the past. All those things are the main themes of Jack Demy films. So there is a relevance here as well. What I am focusing on, so the fellowship, this book project, this is a co-authored volume, and this is the first time for me to write a book with another scholar. And my co-author, he is teaching at the University of Lyon, France. So it is very important for me, for him, to collaborate in a direct, substantial manner. To do that, Zoom, yeah, but it is important for us to meet in person and discuss the project every once in a while. So the fellowship allows me to travel to France, sometimes allows him to come to UCSD and talk about our project. So to create such connection, international or transnational connection, that is also a very important part of the fellowship, creating physical connections between scholars as well. Right? So in that regard, I am really grateful for the fellowship. Well, the focus of my part, well, my co-author is an expert of musics, songs. So the audio part he is writing. And I am obsessed with cinematography. I saw lots of beautiful cinematography in these films. I am obsessed with cinematography because Alina Williams, in the previous panel, she talked about cinema as a medium of time. The other aspect of cinema is, well, it is a medium of space. Right? There is usually a frame. There's strange films without frame too, but usually we do have a square frame. And so one essential element of filmmaking is to capture the world in a square frame. So spacing, choosing a space is always the case. So I am thinking about, in this project, I am discussing framing or cinematography as an act of ethics, how to capture the world from a diverse, inclusive perspective. So that's one thing that I want to pursue in this project. And in that regard, I saw a very interesting and amazing way of capturing the space in the 3 films that we have briefly seen. So that's the issue of space. I want to ask questions about how you are thinking about cinema as an issue of space. The other thing, like I said, musical is very relevant. So genre, still, genre is a very important, element or framework of filmmaking. And I see, opera or musical and nostalgic family drama or contemporary family drama and experimental horror, mystery. I'm not sure how it goes, but still, it's very interesting genre film as well. So I'd like to ask the 3 of you how you think about the space of cinema as a medium of space and the notion of genre in filmmaking.
Check. Hi. Thank you so much, Daisuke. And yeah, I mean, those are great questions. And this particular project, Star Choir, began as an operatic work that was performed in a number of different situations. And then we collaborated with the industry, which is an opera company based in Los Angeles that cites opera in unusual environments. And so for us, the Mount Wilson Observatory seemed like the perfect place to situate the work. So the film is both a document of the run of the performance and a kind of work unto itself. I mean, in a lot of ways, Jacques Demy is, of course, a huge influence on the way I think about space because of the way that the characters move through these urban and other environments within films like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. And then, of course, other film genres like, Ridley Scott's original Alien was a huge reference point for this film. So it's like a baby of Alien and The Umbrellas of Cherbourg or something like that. But thinking about how to shoot a film in a space like the observatory, it was an opportunity to sort of bring together the challenge of working with a 360 dome and actually situating cameras throughout. So what you see in the film is an edit, a sort of montage of 4 different performances, maybe 5. It was 5, right? Because there was also Kyler was one of the another one of the fellows was one of the camera people, and we had a crew of 3 cameras. And so what we did was actually move them through the space in the circle as each performance happened, and then what you see is a sort of stitching together. So we're crossing time, we're crossing space. And in a lot of ways, the viewer of the film sees more of the performance, in a sense, than the person who was there. Of course, when you're there, you have the entire apparatus that you're also kind of contending with. And so this is about 10 minutes of the film. It's one of the first movements in the piece. And yeah, thanks to the fellowship, thanks to the Suraj Israni family for the support, we were able to bring in those extra cameras and really make this thing happen. And because a project like this is so difficult to get off the ground, I wanted, as the director, to see if it was possible to do this thing of capturing a live performance in a way that was also watchable as a film, which is not always the case, and see if the life could be extended, you know. And so thanks to the fellowship and SICA for supporting this and making that happen.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good question about asking about like the space. So I guess just briefly, my project was kind of inspired by kind of a personal experience, but also like trying to capture just kind of feelings I felt kind of at the end of when I was approaching like graduation from this school. And I'm sure maybe if there's seniors in the room, you're probably feeling something close to it. I just wanted to kind of capture that point. But when you're talking about space, I really think there's two aspects that I was kind of focusing on. One was the writing, and two is also, you know, like the physical space. And I guess to address the writing, and as you were talking about genre, it's kind of like narrative kind of feel. I was definitely inspired by like watching other kind of films and shorts that kind of played with that amount of time. And especially to, you know, Jen and Rita, who, one of the fellows, also kind of helped me with the writing. It's like really important to know when to leave space for certain lines and when to cut. That's like another kind of use of space that I think really like can make or break a project. And then in terms of like the physical space we shot in, it was an interesting dynamic. We kind of like rented out like a house online. I kind of coordinated with like the owner like ahead of time. So it was definitely different because it's like, I don't really have a connection to that like personally, but like Paris was my production designer. She brought in a bunch of elements that helped like fill it, give it more life. And yeah, even my grandma, it kind of all came from her like moving out of her home, and I used a bunch of her like, you know, junk and just like stuff in her garage as like props to use in the film. And that's kind of how those two things line up. I just will say like, as part of the screening, like I did have to cut like some of the more like personal moments for Tommy's character, but I think in the end, I'm pretty proud of what I got. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I actually do think about genre a good amount as a kind of starting point for where the films that I make with my filmmaking collaborator, Whitney Horn, where we start off. Our previous film was kind of like a late night sexy TV thriller, and then before that we made a Western, we made a jungle movie before that, so we're always kind of thinking about the sort of like the things that are offered by the possibilities of genre. And in this case, we were really excited to make our first short film in a really long time, and we were like, let's make an experimental film like as a genre experimental film. And so we were like thinking about like, yeah, like Jean Cocteau or Maya Deren, kind of like, you were like, if you picture an art film, like what are you picturing? And like that's what we wanted to kind of make. And then at the same time, we were also like, we're really into like those like ghost adventures, like the ghost hunting TV shows. And so this is probably a little bit of a blending of those two sets of rules. And the space, I mean, was just like huge for the film. We had always, we were like, let's make a movie, and we were like, okay, let's do it. But when we originally conceived the film, you know, the idea is that these two women go to a space, but then they kind of go inside themselves, and they're exploring the space physically, but they're also exploring their psyches as they're doing that. And originally we wanted to build a sort of like surreal set, you know, like very like Blood of a Poet kind of space that everyone could be wandering around in. And our producer was just looking for a location for us to be staying in, and found this place. And got us in touch with him, and this is the same producer as Pandemic Bread. One of the producers, not Nikki, but Christina Rhee, did amazing work and managed to get that place for cheap. And we mostly through charming the guy, and the guy was such a fascinating, I mean, like, that space is so irrational. Like, that space is much more surreal than anything we could have designed. The, like, intermix of things that literally shouldn't be here, and also, like, just couldn't, like, they're different eras, they don't mix together, they're all clashing, so it seems like you're inside somebody's mind, somebody's, like, cluttered unconscious. And so, like, so we ended up, Whitney and myself and Christina Rhee went up there to just like look at the space and continue the charm offensive to get it for cheap. And he took us on this tour, and we realized that his voice had to be part of the film as well. So we recorded him and kind of then had him travel around with the two actors as well and kind of show them the space. And so he becomes the sort of the ghost narrator who's taking them through the space. So yeah, I mean, this is a film that very much is kind of thinking about what the difference between like interior and exterior space can be.
Great, yeah, all three of, yeah. All three of you have talked about the physical, the actual location where you film those films. Also, Lev mentioned this border crossing between the outer space, not outer space, physical space and the inner space. Outer space is Alexandra. But that reminds me of the space as a real space and virtual space, or the connection or gap between reality and fantasy. And always, almost always, musical is a play between internal realism, or Joker 2's cases, well, actually, realism is, psychological realism versus the world outside of his psyche. So what I want to ask, the last question that I want to ask you is about your thoughts on reality as a space and fantasy as a space or beyond the space. So reality, what do you think about? This is, I think, essential question about filmmaking, especially, fiction filmmaking as well, or documentary as well. But in any case, yeah. Could you say a few words about your thoughts on realism?
Yeah, I guess I have to see Joker 2, which is what's dawning on me as we sit here, and it's kind of terrifying thought. But yeah, I think in a lot of ways, because the film is hovering in these two spaces between the theatrical, where what you see is not actually what's being conjured in the mind of the viewer, and so the language of the text and the sort of sound of the music and these things are conjuring a sort of other world that the viewer is actually imagining alongside the viewing of this kind of spectacular space, which is a very real space that actually exists for the purpose of seeing outer space, which you're imagining while you're watching the film. So I think these kinds of layers are they're always present in film to a degree, but in something like this where it's this real hybrid of the theatrical, the operatic, and then of course the very real, which is something I take from performance art. We're actually in a real space in real time with its own conditions. So I think that's actually a really interesting thing to think about. And I was actually, there's one little moment in that where the performers are kind of miming all these actions. And I was thinking a lot about, in Umbrellas of Cherbourg, the scene in the mechanics, like where they're all working, but they're not really working, but they seem like they're working. And it's like working in the sense that they're referencing work, And so I guess that kind of space of hovering amongst these different realities is something that I'm always interested in doing.
I guess for me, that's an interesting question. I think realism, as like when we're talking about filmmaking, it's kind of like that doesn't really like go together sometimes, because we're kind of like making stories or just making our own worlds. But I think it's kind of interesting to look at it like all these people are taking this one idea that started as kind of like a script and like kind of spinning it in their own direction and see like how they can build that kind of world. Like, my actors, once they read the script, like it kind of goes in a completely new direction that kind of benefits the whole project. And even my kind of adult actor, Kiyoki, when I was in like a callback with him. He was talking about kind of his own feelings on the subject and kind of how it was personal to him. So I think like that connects, you know, like something that's kind of fake, but we like put our own like emotions into it. And I think that's like what's so powerful about it is like, yeah, we kind of constructed everything. Even in the edit, like things can like change and you can delete things. But like when it all comes together, you're really making like a story that can like really impact people. And that's like what I find like most inspiring.
That's really good. I got distracted from what I was going to say. That was really good. So this this film, especially like it's a fantasy film. It's literally inside of a dream for most of the film, but at the same time, like we've just always been inspired by the material world and like the way the light works in the material world, the way that like things actually look. We can find much more complexity in those, and we've been doing that visually for a very long time. But the freedom of making this film with the support of Sika, like the freedom of being able to make something where we're like, okay, this is like a smaller project that we can really kind of dive into any direction, was to start working with like documentary like sound, to be doing like these interviews with somebody that are kind of more free flowing and that are the rhythms of the way he talks when he gives these tours, and to start using kind of like the grist of that as also kind of a texture that's different from the kind of dialogue that we write. And so being able to kind of deal with like the fact that documentary as a mode has also a rhythm to it and can bring other things. A part of the film that is a little bit later that I really like for the same reason is that in one of the scenes, we also just recorded the two actresses like speaking to each other and talking, and one of them is explaining the plot to the Brendan Fraser movie The Mummy, but she doesn't ever get around to saying like, and that's the plot of the movie The Mummy. So as she's saying it, you're like, wait, did this happen to you? Is this real? So like because she's taking the mode of something that feels like it's a documentary, you know, like we just hit record in a room, the fact that she's then narrating a fiction is just like, it's really fun things to be playing with, and I think can kind of help the audience modulate between, again, sort of inner spaces and the real world outside.
No.
I do want to see, you know, your audio films in its entirety very soon, and
we're doing a screening of Star Choir at Pomona College in the Benton Museum in November. If people are interested in going up there to see it.
Great. Yeah.
Do you and MoMA also in York, November? So after you see Star Choir, my feature dream team is going to be at Digital Gym in late November.
Okay, great. Yeah. How about your film, Zachary?
It's currently we're still kind of finalizing some things with sound, but yeah, we're gonna try to submit it to some places and see what happens.
Great.
So,
Yeah. Once it's a screening, just keep us.
But yeah, I'm glad just to be here. It's really great to be here. Yeah.
Great. Once again, thank you very much.
You guys can stay seated for a second.
Sure.
So I just want to say that this forum today has been beyond my wildest dreams and expectations. There's something in seeing and hearing from the four of you just now and seeing the films and thinking about what we've all seen today. One of the things I began to think about was the way at UCSD, and I think in institutions in general, we typically will get a little siloed in our departments or in our status or our various positions. And one of the things I really wanted to do with the fellowships and with the center in general is kind of break down some of these barriers so that you'd have filmmakers from communications and literature and visual arts and filmmakers who were students and staff and grad students and faculty all kind of coming together around this scholarship, making of, production, appreciation for film, cinematic arts, whatever it may be. And I feel like today we really got to see a nice sort of dissolution of those barriers that we typically live with. And I'm just so grateful to our fellows for bringing that to fruit, to bringing that to bear. It was really quite beautiful. So thank you so much. We will be posting on our Suraj Israni website, Suraj Israni Center for Cinematic Arts website, follow-ups on things like Zandro's screening, the book by Daisuke, future screenings by Zachary, and of course the screening from Lev, and all of our other fellows. So we will keep track of you. It sounds weird to say, but we will continue to be lifting you up and celebrating you. Thank you all so much for coming today. It has been such a dream. Please enjoy a reception and chat, talk to each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you for making this happen, Michael. It's your, yeah.